When Raw sucks and gives us nothing to talk about. When SmackDown sucks, unfortunately, and gives us nothing to talk about. I'm actually excited to come up here and talk to you guys about NXT. What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, here with your May 10th NXT review. As always, a little bit of house cleaning. Check out the exclamation in the top corner there. Go have your voice heard in the upcoming May edition of Ask the Phoenix. It'll be going up right before Backlash TakeOver Chicago weekend. Speaking of TakeOver Chicago, this show, other than the main event, didn't have very much action in it, but it had a lot of storytelling towards TakeOver Chicago. So we start off with Aleister Black, and Aleister Black comes out. I still say he's got one of the best entrances in NXT right now, and I'm putting it up there, and yes, people think I'm crazy, people disagree with me, people tell me to go fuck myself. I get it. His entrance is up there with the Ember Moons and the Finn Balor's and the Shinsuke Nakamura's because it's so hectic and so creepy calm all at once, and it works. And they've got him very quickly to the point of he comes out to the ring and immediately you wonder who's the victim going to be. And the victim this week is some guy named Caesar Bonanoni. I don't know. The match isn't much of anything really. Kicked to the chest by Black, a series of strikes, an inverted atomic drop and a drop kick by this Caesar guy who puts out a little bit of a short flurry, but then a high knee by Black, which basically comes up under this guy's chin. He basically uppercuts him with his kneecap, spins him around, and then hits him with another high knee in the spine, setting up for the Black Mass, and goes back to, pins him, gets the win, goes back to that sort of meditative state, and they replay it a lot. They replay the strike to the jaw, they replay the strike to the back, and they go into supercell mode on the Black Mass being the most deadly thing in the world, which is great. This guy is a tank. This guy needs to have a match at TakeOver, and he doesn't yet. They've got 1 week left. But no matter who he's facing, I don't even care if he's facing one of the guys that I don't like. I don't care, throw him in there with Almas, throw him in there with Jose. I don't really care. I also want to see him destroy somebody at TakeOver. We get a lot of video footage for the next little while. We replay the Women's Battle Royal. We replay it getting down to Nikki Cross, Ruby Riott, and Ember Moon. We replay Asuka attacking all three of those women. We replay William Regal's announcement that it's going to be a fatal four-way, and then we make the announcement that Ember Moon is actually out because during that attack she did something to her shoulder, elbow, whatever the case may be. People thought it was kayfabe, but it's actually not. They catch up with her in the Performance Center, and I love when they do shit like this because NXT does it a little more real, where they try to catch up with her in the medical center, and they're like, what's the update on your arm? And she looks down at her sling, and she says, well, what the fuck, guys? Here's your update. I'm not in the match. Fuck off. Type of thing, which is great because it's real. We go to some footage of the upcoming... Okay, I gotta say, all the people on Twitter that are freaking out that the new UK Championship show, the arena is full of lawn chairs, and Triple H chin checked them all on Twitter right quick because it really doesn't matter at all. Point being that Pete Dunne won a #1 contenders match. He's going to face Tyler Bate for the UK Championship, and that's going to take place at TakeOver Chicago, which is really cool. Until the UK title gets its own show, its surrogate home is NXT. It gives NXT, as I've said for the past couple of weeks, a minor title, their version of, I guess, the Intercontinental or US title, which is good. Gives them another title match for their pay-per-view. Everything's cool going forward. We then flip back to the women, do a great video spotlight on Ruby Riott, talking a lot about what her tattoos mean to her and how she's sort of an outcast. She's there to break the mold, how this means everything to her, significance of the tattoos, the alternative lifestyle, the punk rock atmosphere, and all that sort of thing. I like this shit. I like what NXT does with their video packaging. They spent 2 weeks doing video packaging on Roderick Strong, and it was pretty great. I didn't go into it in great detail here because it's one of those, it's a video package. We know WWE's great at them, but that doesn't mean that WWE's not great at them. They attempted to do an interview with Nikki Cross about the upcoming women's title match, and she basically fucked with them. Kept on stopping the interview, kept on fucking with the microphone. all that sort of thing, walked so close up to the microphone that she actually covered the camera. So the screen goes black and you just hear her creepily calling for Asuka, calling for Ruby Riott, calling for what she's calling her title, you know, sort of, Asuka, where is it? Where's my belt? That sort of thing. It's all, she's such a fucking good psycho. And then we go to the back, because we haven't seen enough information coming your way. We got Drew McIntyre, who's excited about Strong versus Itami tonight, the #1 contenders match. He's just disappointed that he's not in the picture himself. And then he's interrupted by Wesley Blake, who's talking shit for reasons. I really hope this is not what Drew McIntyre is doing at TakeOver, because Wesley Blake and Buddy Murphy, and every time NXT has tried to revamp these guys, can all go fuck itself. Oh yes. Can we all mutually agree to send out another big fuck you to whatever the Velveteen Dream is? Oh yes, again. DIY come out and talk about how Authors of Pain are the biggest, baddest monsters in the land, but we've never had a one-on-one title rematch. And then they're interrupted by two guys that I don't give a shit about, in Riddick Moss and Tino Sabatelli, who say that they're great and they're rich or whatever the fuck. I don't care about their promo, I really don't, but, you know, sort of the line starts behind us type. So DIY are like, cool, have at it, how about a match? So we get DIY versus Moss and Sabatelli, and it goes sort of the way you would expect it to go. Knees by Moss, chops to the back and elbows by Ciampa, corner beatdown by Sabatelli, spear by Moss, a drop kick by Sabatelli, and a back elbow by Moss. Headlock by Sabatelli, and a snap vertical suplex by Ciampa is fucking pretty. Dropkick and rolling clotheslines by Gargano, neckbreaker, and a boot by Gargano. Gargano, one of my favorite non-finishing maneuvers in a match of anybody on NXT is that slingshot spear that we got to know back in the Cruiserweight Classic. It's good. Suicide dive by Gargano. Apron knee drop by Ciampa. They do the meet in the middle, which is a stupid name for a stupid finisher for a great team with a stupid name, and DIY get the obvious win. Regal comes out, tries to make an announcement about TakeOver Chicago. He's interrupted by Paul Ellering, who basically goes on the big, you know, big gloom and doom rampage of, if you're going to give those guys another title shot, then their blood is on your hands. And he says, well, I'm willing to take that risk. They get their title shot at TakeOver Chicago, and Ellering sort of takes the guys and starts to leave. And, oh, by the way, Paul, don't you want to know what the stipulation is? And everybody starts, you know, everybody with a gleam in their eye. Authors of Pain with those beautiful new NXT tag titles over their shoulders. William Regal says, yeah, in fact, we're going to hang those titles over the ring because DIY versus AOP at Chicago is a ladder match. I heard this a couple weeks ago. Somebody sent me a link on it, and I'm excited about it because I want to see what DIY can do in a ladder match scenario. I really wish they had pulled this out when it was DIY versus the Revival. You guys heard me back when we were getting ready for TakeOver, one of the TakeOver, it was either the Rumble TakeOver or the Mania TakeOver, where I said that DIY versus Revival versus Authors of Pain is sort of this generation's Hardys, Edge and Christian Dudleys. Now, if you go back to that triple threat match scenario, the ladder matches always started out with Edge, Christian, and the Hardys. So if we had Gargano, Ciampa, and the Revival in a ladder match, that would have made me a really, really happy kid. But, you know, they're happy. Paul Ellering's not. It is what it is. Cassius Ohno is doing an interview in the back, and he's sort of talking about nothing, really. Sort of a, I had a title shot several weeks ago. I was not successful several weeks ago. I'm in the process of picking myself back up. And then he gets into an argument with Andrade Cien Almas. You guys know what I think about Andrade Cien Almas. Even before they changed up his gimmick a little bit, his gimmick now basically is that he's losing matches because he's more focused on partying than he is about wrestling. So let me get this straight. I know he's a heel. I know his gimmick is supposed to annoy me, but it's not that it annoys me. It's not that it gets heat. It just doesn't make any sense, and it's counterproductive to wrestling as a whole. He's a wrestler whose gimmick is he doesn't give a shit about wrestling. For reasons. And Cassius Ohno, I'm really struggling to care. I want to care about Cassius Ohno, but it's just really not happening right now. What I do care about is the #1... Why are we beeping? Why is this a thing? Really? Sorry, guys. Roderick Strong versus Hideo Itami for the #1 contendership to the NXT Championship. I really think they should call it the NXT World Heavyweight Championship because it has been defended more than just in America. But that's, again, another story for another day. Roderick Strong versus Hideo Itami. Let me tell you something about this match, guys. I've said for weeks and weeks and weeks, don't watch the Indies, don't watch ROH. I know Roderick Strong's a big name in the Indies and in ROH. I've heard from several people. But I don't know much about the guy. I learned a lot about the guy in this match. This match was good. When they do the NXT Awards at the end of the year, I don't think this will get Match of the Year, but I wouldn't doubt that it'll be in contention, if that makes sense. Anyways, collar and elbow tie up to start. There's a long chain wrestling sequence which turns into a test of strength, which turns into a headlock by Itami and a shoulder tackle out of the corner. Corner spears by Strong, forearms by Itami, kicks to the chest by Itami. I almost want to say that they're the Daniel Bryan silly kicks, but not quite. And a back elbow. Itami rides a headlock for a while, which is funny because neither one of them is really a heel. Knee drops to the face. Strong hangs Itami gut first over the ropes. Gets him up for the vertical suplex, but instead of carrying him over, drops him back down over the ropes, which is always a really weird spot. If it wasn't for the fact that I actually got the opportunity one time back when I watched TNA, when I was at a TNA house show, to actually step in a ring and find out what a ring actually feels like. Up until that point, it was sort of like, it's the ropes, they bend, they bounce, whatever. It's that feeling that every fan knows that once you've been in the ring and you've sort of felt what those ropes feel like, they don't really move at all. So that spot where they hang them gut first over the ropes has a lot more meaning this time around. Corner chops and a backbreaker by Strong. Seated abdominal stretch by Strong. He does all these modified abdominal stretches where it's an abdominal stretch, but he's also got a leg vice or a grapevine or something like that incorporated into it as well. Pump handle backbreaker out of the corner by Strong. Looks like it could have actually broken somebody's back. One-armed camel clutch by Strong was awkward looking. Forearm by Itami and a dropkick by Strong. Body scissor by Strong. Again, it's sort of that half body scissor, half abdominal stretch type of scenario. Backbreaker on the apron. And basically, it's meant to be a backbreaker. He gets him in sort of backbreaker position, but instead of dropping him across the knee, drops him across the edge of the apron, the same edge of the apron that Kevin Owens uses when he powerbombs people on the outside of the ring. And if you think back, you can even hear Taz on commentary to this day telling you it's the hardest part of the ring. Strong rides a headlock, and it's broken by a jawbreaker by Itami. Corner splash by Strong. Rolling clotheslines by Itami. Series of kicks and a suplex by Itami, followed up by a boot. The tornado. Okay, I said this about Gargano a second ago about that slingshot spear that he does. For Itami, his great non-finisher maneuver is that tornado hangman that he does out of the corner, followed up by an angle slam by Strong, in which case the commentators go on and on and on about how he's paying homage to the brand new Hall of Fame inductee, director of Raw. Why are we beeping? Why is this a thing? I'm sorry. Backbreaker by Strong. Second rope Falcon Arrow by Itami. It was just fucking ridiculous. They trade some punches, they trade some chops, they trade some elbows, they trade some kicks. And at this point, both of these guys are selling how exhausted they are. Because this was about somewhere between a 15 and a 20-minute match. So that's fair enough. You get a running high knee by Itami, and then the sequence that finishes off the match. Haluva kick, hesitation drop kick, GTS, Hideo Itami is your #1 contender, and these guys pick each other up off the mat like spatulas and show each other the respect that they deserve for putting on such a great match. This match was fucking wonderful. I thought that we were going to get Bobby Roode coming out at the end to attack his new #1 contender. We didn't get that. We left on the high note. We left on the show of respect between these two guys. And I can't wait to see what they do with Roderick Strong in 2 weeks, because they've done a lot of promotional and they've put a lot of time into Roderick Strong. So I'm thinking that either Roderick Strong or Drew McIntyre is going to end up facing Aleister Black at TakeOver Chicago. Because right now, Cien Almas, right now Strong, right now Aleister Black, and right now Drew McIntyre have nothing to do at TakeOver. But what we do have at TakeOver so far is Pete Dunne versus Tyler Bate for the United Kingdom title, DIY versus Authors of Pain in a tag team title ladder match, Asuka versus Nikki Cross versus Ruby Riott in a triple threat women's title match, and Bobby Roode versus Hideo fucking Itami for the NXT title. And I'm sorry, plucking out the guy from the roster that uses the GTS as the finisher and putting him in his first ever title match in Chicago is the biggest middle finger from the WWE that you could probably possibly get as far as the whole CM Punk situation goes, and that makes me smile a lot, and maybe that just means that I'm a bad person. Anyways, that was NXT, and I of course am Spaz Phoenix, your YWC reality check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation, keep all these conversations going, don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later, but for right now I am tagging out. Bye guys.